He will speak with us on the topic of blockchain and the transition to the digital world. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
How you guys doing? I'm going to try to run through this really quick in less than 15 minutes, and then we're just going to do some Q&A. I can't see you though because these lights are blinding, so we're going to figure that out when we get there. Today what I want to talk about is what we're doing at Morgan Creek. So there's three partners at Morgan Creek Digital, myself, Mark Yusko, Jason Williams. We've got a unique combination of experiences, everything from building companies worth $500 million to managing billions of dollars to working at some of the largest tech companies in the US. And we think that blockchain and crypto is a big deal, but not because it has anything to do with blockchain and crypto. I'm going to go through kind of our thesis as to what we think is going on. I'll talk a little bit about where we see the opportunities, and I'll also talk about some of the companies that we've invested in, why we've invested in those businesses, and there'll be questions. So all we're talking about is investing in the digital age, right? Blockchain doesn't matter, crypto doesn't matter. When we move into the digital world, we've actually seen this happen before, right? If you think of, we used to have this analog world, then we went to an electronic world, and now we're moving to a digital world. But in the analog world, we had physical assets, right? This is physical paper money. This is physical deeds for a piece of property. This is a physical commodity. And in order to transact these physical assets up until the 1970s or 80s, what you had to do was you had to trade. And you could really only trade with people who were in close proximity to you geographically, right? I could stand next to you and hand you the physical piece of paper, but it really didn't make a ton of sense for me to put money into an envelope and mail it, across continents, for example. And so as we started to trade these physical assets, there was tons of commerce, and we saw a lot of transactions. It was all constrained by being physically close to other people to trade physical assets. So this analog world was eventually replaced by an electronic world. And this electronic world was simply us trying to figure out how do we use new technology to better do commerce and transactions of value across the world. We now wanted to not only trade with the person who lived next door, we wanted to trade with people across the world. And so electronic assets were created. All an electronic asset is, it's a 1 or a 0 on a computer screen that represents the physical asset. So when you buy gold today, you don't buy the physical gold, you buy 1s and 0s on a screen. When you buy a stock, you don't buy the physical stock certificate, you buy 1s and 0s on a screen, and that physical stock certificate actually sits in custody somewhere. When you move money, you don't actually move hundreds of dollars of bills from bank to bank. What you're doing is you're moving 1s and 0s, and there's physical settlement times associated with this. Those physical settlement times still take 2 or 3 days. So the electronic assets that were created on top of the physical assets. It made it easier to transact across borders or with people not in close proximity to you, but we still need to settle the physical asset, right? There's that settlement time that takes a long time and is still somewhat inefficient. The switch between the analog world and the electronic world led to massive value creation. The internet helped power that, so everything from that, the e-trades, the world, etc., in power, allowed us to create a ton of value. But the electronic assets are great when humans are the ones that are interacting with the assets. They're the ones that are actually doing the transactions. The problem is now we're going to this digital world. And this digital world is like one country. There are no borders in the digital world. We all live in one single country. You access this nation through the interface of a phone or a computer, and there's over 4 billion people that all live by the same rules, right? It's governed by algorithms and machines, and the default is automation. So all of a sudden, we're moving from a world where humans are the ones that are actually driving transactions, and the algorithms and the machines are driving transactions now. But the problem is, in this digital world, the assets that we previously have had, those physical and analog assets, aren't actually compatible with the new world, right? The technology of the asset is incompatible with the world in which we are moving to. And so what do we need? In this digital world, we need 3 things. This is all the entire industry is about, right? Forget every single piece of intellectual Olympics you've ever seen, this is all blockchain and crypto boils down to. We need digitally native assets, we need digitally native accounting, and we need digitally native contracts, right? Everything else is noise. It only boils down to digitally native assets, accounting, and contracts. What is a digitally native asset? The machines, the algorithms, they don't want our legacy assets. They're too smart to use the physical analog world assets, and they're too fast and efficient to use the electronic assets. We need digitally native assets, meaning that the asset is created in the digital world, it's held in the digital world, it's transacted in the digital world, and it is compliant in the digital world. But we need digitally native assets. Now, what is a digitally native asset? It's simply a computer file. And so with that computer file, let's say it was a music file, I could simply duplicate the computer file, and I would have two files that represented the same song. And I could send that to person A and person B. Person A doesn't know if they received the original computer file with the song, or if they received the duplicate. But they don't care. They get to listen to their song, and they're absolutely fine. But when that computer file is represented by a financial asset, like a currency, for example, and I'm able to duplicate the currency over and over and over again, and then I send it to person A and person B, now person A doesn't know if they received the original or a counterfeit of the currency, right? So that digitally native asset previously was not possible to be used for financial insurance because of the double spend problem. Now, to solve this, we use triple entry accounting. Triple entry accounting is taking double entry accounting and adds a third ledger that is publicly held and is transparent. And what it does is it prevents the ability for people to duplicate computer files and use them for transactions. This is an automated system, right? Remember, when the machines and the algorithms are driving these transactions, they happen so quickly across borders and can happen in very small amounts that it would be impossible for a human with an Excel spreadsheet to actually keep track, to do the accounting, to settle the books. So if we're going to have an automated world with digitally native assets, we actually need digitally native accounting or triple entry accounting. A blockchain is simply an accounting system. That's all this is, right? Triple entry accounting is a blockchain. Now, if we have those digitally native assets, and they're now empowered to actually be a financial instrument because we have this triple entry accounting, we still need to make sure that we have contracts that govern the transactions between two parties, right? If I go ahead and I sell you something, or you send me money, we still need to make sure that this stuff is upheld within a court of law. There is some sort of governance that we all buy into. And so digitally native contracts or smart contracts are simply computer code or programmable contracts that allow the machines to ensure legal compliance with every transaction. We as humans are not capable of keeping up with the machines, right? It is actually impossible for us to use paper contracts to enforce many of these transactions. And so we now need these smart contracts or programmable contracts to ensure that we have digitally native assets that are based on digitally native accounting and governed by digitally native contracts. Now, this is a huge opportunity because it literally disrupts every single thing that we do in transactions of value. But you don't have to believe me. The smartest people in the world are already working with this. If you're not working on this, you're already left behind. Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Fidelity, Jack Dorsey, Jamie Dimon, the smartest people in the world are spending incredible resources to try to be a leader in this space. Now, some of them will be successful and some of them won't. But if the largest corporations in the world are spending billions of dollars every year to do this, there's probably a likelihood that we're going to see progression and an acceleration of the technology. But they're not the only ones. These are charts that show how many companies are being started, how much capital is going into those companies, and how frequent deals are happening, right? Not only are we seeing the smartest people in the world work on this, we're also seeing an incredibly high number of successful entrepreneurs and intelligent people going in to build the challengers. So now we have a market that's based on digitally native assets, digitally native accounting, and digitally native contracts that you're getting attacked from both sides. There's a top-down approach of major corporations pushing the pace of innovation, and you also have challengers that are trying to build value from scratch. And so earlier this year, Morgan Creek went out and we raised a $40 million, or we announced a $40 million venture capital fund. That venture capital fund is anchored by the only 2 public pensions to invest in the crypto industry. They're over 50% of the fund. And we also have a university endowment, a hospital system, an insurance company, a private foundation, etc. Now, I want to go through a couple of the deals that we've done here. So we've got $4 million of exposure to Coinbase. And if you go back to the analog and the electronic assets, right? The value creation of Coinbase is simply allowing people to update their assets. All they are allowing you to do is take an electronic asset or an analog asset and turn it into a digital asset. It is an exchange, right? It's not groundbreaking. We see exchanges in every corner of the earth for every other asset. They simply took an old business model and realized that people are going to want digitally native assets. We should let them change their analog and electronic assets into digital assets. The company did over $1 billion in revenue in 2017, did a little bit more than that in 2018, right? You've got companies like Tiger Global Management, Andreessen Horowitz, etc., all investing. This is a real company with real revenue, run by real entrepreneurs, backed by real investors, that is only going to continue to get larger as the industry grows. Another deal, Figure. So Mike Cagney is founder of Figure. He previously started a company called SoFi. It's in the consumer lending space. It's today worth $4.5 billion. Mike looked at the home equity space, mortgages, right? And he said, today a mortgage is 7 to 8% fees on every single issuance of a mortgage, and that 7 to 8% is spread among a bunch of middlemen. But the end result of the current mortgage system is an analog or an electronic asset. I wonder what would happen if I went through the exact same process of a mortgage, but I did it and I created a digitally native asset. And so what Figure is essentially doing is he has written a bunch of software that takes out every single middleman in that process and it compresses. And now Mike Cagney's Figure is the sole middleman in the entire transaction. They power the entire transaction because they are using algorithms, they're using machines, and they're using code to automate the process of actually issuing these home equity loans. Now this company is 14 months old, he's raised $120 million, and they're already originating over $2 million a day in loans, right? Again, you've got a founder who's done it before with a real company, backed by some of the best investors in the world, and they're only going to continue to accelerate as the industry grows. BlockFi, consumer banking. How does a consumer bank work? You deposit fiat currency, they take that fiat currency, and they lend it out. They rehypothecate the money, right? What BlockFi is doing is they're saying, well, rather than allowing somebody to do this with an analog or electronic currency, why don't we do this with a digital currency? And so you can use one of their 2 products. You can either give them Bitcoin and Ether, and they give you a US dollar loan against it. So you give them that currency, and then they give you the analog or the electronic asset in exchange. Or you can deposit your digital currency, and they will actually pay you interest on it. It's a consumer bank, but it is built for a digitally native asset rather than an electronic or an analog asset. Lastly, digital assets data. This company is really unique in that you've got founders who have previously built and sold a $50 million company that was in the enterprise data space. And what they realized was in the analog and electronic world, a company like Bloomberg is able to take a ton of data that is reported to them, massage it, visualize it, and then sell it back to other investors in the ecosystem. But the reason why Bloomberg is successful is because it is mandated that companies present or report their data. So Facebook every single year or every quarter has to actually submit their earnings reports, their P&Ls, etc. And so in the blockchain space, it's different. Many of these assets don't have for-profit companies behind them. Take Bitcoin, for example. So there's no reporting of the information. Bloomberg has a really hard time finding out data. So what digital assets data has done is they've built an incredible product that actually pulls all of this data in. They're running nodes, that they're pulling all the data off exchanges, etc. They then massage it, they help visualize it, they put some tools around it, and they sell it as an enterprise product. Again, commercialization strategy, old product that is a correlation to what they're doing, but it's built for this digital world, right? And so what we're seeing again is founders that have done this before, backed by real investors, that are going to build very, very large companies in this space, but it doesn't look that much different than that electronic or analog world. They're just taking the same business models, the same products, and they're updating, right? They're upgrading the products, just like we need to upgrade the assets. Now, the last thing that I'll leave you with before we do Q&A is, many people ask me a lot, what should I invest in? The short answer is I can't tell you that, right? You have your different goals, you've got different risk tolerances, etc. But what I can tell you is one of the biggest lies in crypto is that the liquid market outperforms the private market. That's not true. If you were to invest in the Series A or the seed round of Kraken, Binance, Bitmain, Coinbase, etc., and on the very same day have bought Bitcoin, the best performing asset of the last 10 years, you would actually have made more money off of the private, owning the equity of the company in the private market than you would have off the appreciation of Bitcoin. And so there is a huge kind of narrative violation in that the best returning components of this industry are going to be in the private market. And why is that? It's because innovation is an asset class, right? Innovation is actually something where what we see is that the best returning assets over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years are companies that heavily invest in innovation. And there's no industry that is receiving more dollars, more intellectual capital than blockchain and crypto. And the reason is because we simply need to upgrade our assets because the machines and the algorithms are dependent on it. So we'll stop there and I'll just take some questions for the next 13 minutes or so. No questions, perfect. Just yell. Go. In the back, go.
What do you think is the most important innovation?
The most important innovation in blockchain, I don't think the most important innovation is going to be blockchain. I actually think that it's all of the automation that happens around blockchain, right? Here's, again, another big lie of this industry. There's no such thing as a blockchain company, right? And why I say that is how many people are running around saying, I'm an Excel spreadsheet company? Nobody, right? It's just an underlying piece of technology. How many people run around and say, I'm a MongoDB company? There's no such thing, right? It's you use that tool, but building a blockchain company or thinking of yourself as a blockchain-first company is one of the fastest ways to fail in this industry. What you have to do is you've got to build a company that solves a real problem and creates value for customers. And oh, by the way, one of the technologies we use is blockchain, right? And so the innovation to me is not going to come from blockchain or crypto or any of that stuff. The innovation comes with how people take that technology and apply it to very, very unique problems. Today, a lot of that's in the finance industry, but I think there's a lot of other industries where we're going to see some innovation. That's the stuff that we're looking to invest in.
Hi, I'm Valentin Preobrazhensky from Latoken. So to my view, all of these forums and investment debates are about accessibility to new financial system, accessibility to money, to Bitcoin, to stablecoins, and accessibility to assets. It's about security tokens, and you say that there is a big lie that these publicly accessible investments are given more returns than private. And to my view, we are talking about private assets, private rounds into exchanges which were done in traditional equity, not in kind of tokenized stocks, because of regulation issues or because of kind of other reasons. What is the reason why these rounds are still done in private, not in a public way?
Because it's more conducive to building companies. The way that an entrepreneur operates, right? Think about building a company where every single day, in the early stages of a business, where there's some days you have the most of your pure cows and the lowest of lows all within private small company report and present information the same way a public company does. They don't even have enough people on staff to do that, right? The private market is really important because it allows entrepreneurs to build without all of the bureaucracy involved with being public and transparent. Because once you become public and transparent and available to the masses, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that, right? And so I think that a lot of it is entrepreneurs are looking for a way to build companies of value, but do it in an efficient manner while being well capitalized. And they have aspirations to eventually be in the public markets, but it's just much difficult to do that. And that is also why, again, it goes to the private markets have outperformed the public markets in trade assets for a long time. It's because you're starting from scratch in the private markets, right? The public markets are already things of value. If you start from zero, it's kind of like when founders pitch us and they say, hey, I 3,000% increased my user base last year. And you say, okay, well, how many did you start with? And they say 5 users. Well, any multiple of 5 is really easy to do, right? It's much more difficult if you started with 500,000 users to 3,000% increase, right? So I think that's where the value creation really happens in the private market.
You and Morgan Creek spend a lot of time talking to institutional investors in the United States, trying to get them off zero, pension funds, endowments, state plans, things like that. Can you just give us like an update on where you, and I know it's a spectrum in terms of where different ones are at different places, but just kind of what the update is currently maybe versus, 6 months ago versus a year ago kind of thing?
Yeah, this industry has done a huge disservice to ourselves in the way that I think we've presented the opportunities to these institutional investors over the last, call it 3 years or so. They don't want to burn Wall Street. They don't want to decentralize the world. They actually think we're all crazy, right? They think that stuff makes 0 sense. But what makes a lot of sense to them is, I don't actually understand the qualitative argument for Bitcoin, for example, if you're in their seat, right? What do you mean that we need a non-central money? What do you mean we need a decentralized digital currency? No, we don't. US dollar was fine. That's literally what they said. But when you walk in and you say, I have a non-correlated asset with asymmetric return, that if you put this into your portfolio, it will reduce the overall risk of the portfolio, and it can have a material impact on the overall performance of your portfolio. They don't care if you're selling rocks, balloons, or Bitcoin. That's interesting to them, right? There's an economic benefit to them, even if they don't buy into the qualitative argument. So I think that's one around digital currencies and Bitcoin specifically. The other piece is the companies that I just went through, it's venture capital, right? There's no difference between a blockchain-focused venture capital fund and a healthcare-focused venture capital fund. You're still doing venture capital, and the key piece is they know what bucket of capital is coming from on their end. So they usually got equity buckets, they've got real estate, they've got inflation hedge, cash, etc. They know it comes out of the equity bucket. With something like Bitcoin, they don't know which bucket it comes out, so that's important. 2 is they know what they're buying. When you buy digital currency, they don't understand it. They've never bought that before. But when you're buying equity in a business, that makes sense. They've done that a bunch of times before. They're very comfortable doing that. And then they also know how they're going to monetize the investment. Right? If I ask you right now, how are you going to monetize an investment in Bitcoin? It's all around trading. They're not traders. They're conservative, patient, long-term focused capital. But when I say we're going to buy equity in a company and we're going to monetize it because it's either going to go public or it's going to get acquired, again, they understand that, they're comfortable with that. And so I think that we've really got to change the way that we talk about this stuff if we want these institutions to come in, because the way that a lot of the industry is currently being discussed, the only people that are going to come in are financially focused trading firms that want to trade the volatility. But to get the public pensions, the endowments, the foundations, the sovereign wealth, etc., we have to show them a mature industry with mature investment opportunities that they understand, they're comfortable underwriting the risk for, and they feel like there's enough capacity. That's another big deal. How many people in here think that a sovereign wealth fund with 50 billion to $1 trillion is comfortable putting a sizable check into an industry that's worth somewhere between 130 and 150 billion market cap in the market? I'll tell you how many we're going to do it. 0. Why? Because many of these institutions have to write $500 million checks, $1 trillion checks into an asset class. Not all of them are managers, but across managers. They can't do that here. right? Because where are you gonna put $500 million? You're gonna put it in Bitcoin, you're gonna put it in Ethereum, maybe there's 3 or 4 others that you can put it into. But if you try to put $500 million into a bunch of shit coins, it would be chaos, right? And so they have to put it into the private markets. That's where the capacity is unconstrained, that's where the innovation is happening, that's what's going to ultimately deliver the best returns.
So, a follow-up on that one. When do you think the asset class will grow that much that actually is, sorry, I'll repeat that.
When do you think that your best guess at when do you think the asset class will grow so that it will actually attract those kind of institutional investors? Your best guess?
I think that the industry is much, much larger than people realize, right? And what I mean by that is everyone just looks at the numbers that are easy to pinpoint, and that's the liquid market cap. The liquid market cap is actually, I would argue, some of the smallest components of the innovation in the industry, right? There's much, much more innovation happening in the private markets, large corporations, etc. And so let's walk through the example of Facebook. Right? I used to work there, so I'm highly biased, but I thought a lot about what they're doing. And to me, they're one of, if not the most important company in crypto. And it's for 2 reasons. One is, regardless of what they build, good, bad, or indifferent, when they release this, they have so many users that it will be the first time that hundreds of millions of people interact with this technology, the ethos, the industry, etc. That's a big deal. Right? Imagine the first time 500 million people interact with crypto is through Facebook's product. We probably should be paying attention to what they're building, right? The second piece, though, is if it is successful, how much of the market cap of Facebook will you be able to say is part of the crypto industry? It'll be really hard to actually determine, right? But my guess is that it could double or triple the size of the crypto liquid market cap almost overnight. Right? When you look at Facebook, Amazon, Twitter, Square, etc., like the private market valuation that you would put on their parts of the business that are crypto related, I think are actually much bigger than the liquid market cap. We have to go sell that to institutions. They have to understand that blockchain and crypto is not just the liquid market. There's a bunch of other stuff that's happening, and it's actually much, much more familiar to them than they realize, and that's where they're going to end up investing. Just,
I think one of the problems that we're 10 years in this space in crypto, tokens, what have you, and there's still a pretty negative perception from the general population. Most people either don't understand it, are ignorant to it, or are brainwashed into thinking it's all about drugs, prostitution, whatever. 10 years in, have we yet to see the killer app, the one thing where blockchain has been used by a company, someone successful, that then it gets people attention? I think it's in the same thing that these other guys have been talking about.
We have the killer app, and it's Bitcoin. And here's the data that proves it. Bitcoin last year did $410 billion on-chain transactions. That's more than Venmo. That's more than Apple Pay. It's about 1/10 or so of MasterCard, right? Bitcoin is the silent giant in the room. And that sounds ridiculous to say in the sense of it's the best well-known asset, right, in the market. But it is so much bigger and stronger than people realize that when you start to compare the usage, the number of users, the transactions, the volume that actually occurs, I'm not talking exchange trading, I'm talking about actual on-chain transactions, right? It's bigger than some of the best-known payment and transaction networks in the world, right? I walked the CIO of a major university the other day through Bitcoin versus Venmo and Apple Pay. And I said, did you know that Venmo and Apple Pay combined aren't bigger than Bitcoin's transaction volume last year? She said no. I said, did you know that Bitcoin is available in over 100 countries that Venmo and Apple Pay aren't available? She said no. I said, did you know that there's actually more security and compliance on the Bitcoin network than on Venmo and Apple Pay? She said no. And so it's less about what's the killer app, and it's more about why aren't we talking about it in the way that gets those institutions to understand what's actually happening.
But isn't that volume about trading and speculation versus Venmo, Apple Pay is buying real stuff?
How much of Venmo is gamblers sending money back and forth on Saturday for football games? Right? So So again, it goes back to why somebody uses a transaction does not discount the fact that they're using the network. We like to, because most of us in here talk about price and trading, etc. But those other services get used all the time, right? Again, how much of Venmo's traffic is for buying marijuana in the United States where it's illegal? I have no clue. It could be smaller, it could be bigger. We don't know, right? But no one says, oh, people just are using it to pay their drug bill on Venmo, so that doesn't count, right? So again, it's just about the narrative that we're using and the way that we articulate these ideas is really important. One more. One more question, anybody? No? Oh, right here.
From your perspective, that right now, before mass adoption comes of the blockchain, I think it's, for me, the important thing is a large corporation, like you said, that Facebook or Amazon have adopted a big scale. When do you think it would happen from your perspective?
So, I wrote about this a couple weeks ago. Every person in here uses a digital asset. And not because you bought Bitcoin or Ethereum. You use a fiat currency, many of which, 90+% of them, are electronic and digital. Right? There's not physical paper and coins, right? Especially in the United States. Like 93% is digital. But you also use other digital assets. How many people in here have the Starbucks mobile app? Anybody? Starbucks mobile? Nobody in here has a Starbucks mobile app? Okay. In there, when you make purchases with the app, they give you stars. And they keep track of it. It's a loyalty program, right? And you can redeem those stars for coffee. It's not based on a blockchain. It's not cryptographically secure. But it is a digital asset. It's created in the digital world. It's held in the digital world. It's transacted in the digital world. And it's legally compliant in the digital world, right? How about anybody in here ever built a product on Amazon AWS? Right? They give you Amazon AWS credits. Those credits are not on a blockchain, they're not cryptographically secure, but they're created in the digital world, they exist in the digital world, they're transacted there, and they're legally compliant there. That is a digitally native asset, right? And you're able to exchange them for goods and services. We don't have to build the digital world on a blockchain. We actually have to build it cryptographically secure. I'm willing to bet that a good portion of it will be on blockchain cryptographically secure, but the digital world is going to happen with or without blockchain. The blockchain technology is just simply an underlying technology that empowers or accelerates the adoption of these digital world, digital use cases, etc. But we actually are already there, right? The last thing I'll leave you with is, as I say a lot of times, humans trust machines and algorithms more than other humans, right? This to me is like the one psychological point that everyone has to understand for this to really take hold. When I come to Tokyo and I get lost, I don't ask somebody on the street for directions. I look on Google Maps. When I have a question, I don't ask my friend. I ask Siri or Google. If I want a music recommendation or a movie, I don't ask my friend. Netflix, Spotify, Apple Music, etc. Right? We trust the algorithms already. Take Bitcoin, for example. A digitally native asset that is more transparent and algorithmic based than the US dollar. And so when I sit down with these CIOs, what I explain to them is, you have two currencies, right? A currency is just simply the belief that you and I have that it has value, right? It could be a rock, it could be a dollar, it could be a Bitcoin. Doesn't matter. As long as you believe it has value, it's now a currency. In one of them, the US dollar, we are told, just trust us, this is how the system works. We can't validate it, but then we're told how it works. We don't have a lot of insight into what's happened previously. I can't tell you today how much is being printed, how much is being taken out of circulation, any of that. And we don't know the rate decision next quarter, right? So there's not a lot of transparency, we don't have a lot of information. We're all trying to make decisions without a full knowledge set. With Bitcoin, I don't have to have anybody tell me how it works. I can read every line of code and see for myself. I can go back to January 3rd, 2009 and see every single transaction that's happened. Right now, in real time, I can tell you how much computing power is securing the network, how much Bitcoin is being created every 10 minutes, right? All the way down. And I actually know the monetary policy decisions for the next 100 years, right? We, again, have two separate currencies, fiat and Bitcoin. people who are not technological, are not savvy, are older usually, tend to trust the human legacy financial system. People who are more technologically savvy and younger trust the algorithm over the humans. The reason why the digitally native assets that are cryptographically secure are going to win is because humans fuck up. Period. Right? That's why we see currencies blowing up around the world. Because humans lost discipline in monetary policy. Right? In their decision making. They got greedy, they were biased, they had emotion, right? All this stuff. The algorithm doesn't do that. And so that's just with currency. You can go through every stock, bond, currency, and commodity, and we're going to see the same thing. And so I think the key piece is with the Amazons, the Facebooks, they're realizing nobody trusts the humans running the company. They want to understand what is the algorithm. And so my big prediction is that these companies are not going to issue centralized assets. They're actually going to issue transparent, decentralized digital assets that look very similar to Bitcoin, right, or whatever other assets fit that criteria. And that is going to allow them to present it to the public in a way that benefits from all the psychological elements, but also still they get value because they're integrating it into their systems, right? All right, guys, I really appreciate this. Before I get off here, though, I just want to say thank you to the Teams team. And if you guys can just stand up and give them a round of applause, I think they really deserve it. Thanks so much.